Hi, Benjamin here from English Classes Online. In today's lesson, our focus will be on the best tips for reading comprehension. So if you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel, subscribe button below. Make sure you click on the bell icon as well, so that whenever a new video goes live on this channel, you will be notified instantly. Let's dive into the lesson right away. Let's begin with the lesson objectives. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to do the following things or take the following actions. Number one, explain what reading comprehension is all about. 2, explain why it is important. 3, explain the procedure for reading a given passage and answering the questions on it. And number 4, read a passage and practically answer questions on it. Now let's take this one by one. We begin with what is reading comprehension all about. Reading comprehension refers to the ability to read a passage or text, understand it, and answer questions on it. The word comprehension simply means understanding. To comprehend is to understand. So comprehension simply means understanding. And of course, you know, literacy is about reading and writing. And one of the ways to test your proficiency in the use of English is to give you a passage to read and answer questions on it. So let's now look at why comprehension is important. Why is comprehension important? Now let's look at it. Now, comprehension is important. Reading comprehension is really important because it is central to education at all levels. You know, education begins with, reading and then having understanding of what you have read and getting to the point where you can now begin to produce language by writing, okay? So without comprehension, you cannot get anything out of the meaning and information that the author is trying to impart in a given passage or text. And at every stage of learning or education, you can't do away with the textbook or ebook. I mean, you have to read something. Education has to do with reading. Reading is central to education. And so if you don't understand what you have read, then you are stuck intellectually or academically. You don't understand. So that is why reading comprehension is central to education at all levels. Now, as a student, you need to know how to answer comprehension questions correctly in order to pass your English exams excellently. Okay? Now, beyond the classroom and the English exam hall, many organizations are beginning to use comprehension to test the English proficiency of their applicants before employing them. So that shows you how important comprehension is, okay? And we also have to take note of the fact that comprehension itself is central to success in all fields of life, because comprehension is about your ability to understand what you have read or heard, which will in turn enable you to explain, analyze, summarize, report, or respond to related questions. Now, if you are working in an organization, you have to deal with a lot of things that need to be read: reports, proposals, quotations, price lists, and so on and so forth, okay? And sometimes you have to prepare certain correspondences, and you have to receive emails, you have to, these are all things that require you to read, and you need to understand. So different comprehension skills are needed for you to be able to extract facts from the documents you read. And sometimes you need to make presentations. And for you to make presentations, you also have to make a lot of research, go through a lot of literature, and extract ideas and pieces of information that will help you to put together your speech or your report or whatever you are going to present. So at every level, you need comprehension. Of course, you can't do without comprehension. And this is really key, all right? So that is exactly why comprehension is important. Now let's look at the reading procedure, okay? Excuse me. There are several reading techniques you can adopt for reading a comprehension passage and answering questions on it. I recommend the following simple procedure. Number one, read through the questions first. This will give you prior information about what you are going to look for in the passage. I have been consistent in recommending this procedure, and I want you to understand the procedure is so simple and so effective that if you master it and you use it, you will answer questions correctly on any passage or text you are given. And it doesn't matter the type of English exam, whether it is the high school exam, the school certificate exam, or even the proficiency test, IELTS, Duolingo English test. There is always the reading text that you are given in any of these exams. And so when you adopt the right method, you get the right results. Number two, as part of number one, which is reading the questions first, focus on the question and make sure you understand it fully. This is really very important. Another thing is that you need to underline the keywords that you come across in the question, because you are going to use these keywords as context clues. They are the clues that you have to register in your mind, and you have to grab them and hold them firmly and search for the answer in the passage, okay? They are the keys that will unlock the doors in the passage and show you the answers, okay? Number two, read the passage, all right? Having read the question first, then you need to read the passage and make sure you understand what the passage is about. You must read the passage with concentration. You must read for meaning. You must read with a purpose and read for discovery. Now, you are able to read with a purpose only when you have read the question first, because if you are going to search for something and you get into where you are to search for it and you suddenly forget what you are going to search for, it doesn't matter how long you search, your search is completely useless because it has no purpose. Anything that lacks a purpose becomes a subject of abuse. You waste all your time, and that search becomes an abusive search because it amounts to nothing. Okay, but if you know what you are looking for, the moment you see, then the search comes to an end and with a good result, okay? So make sure you underline the key words and use them as context clues. Number three, read the questions again. Now, having read the question, you then go ahead and read the passage, and having read the passage, you go back to the question. And this time, you are ready to answer the questions one by one. So when you pick a question, you go back to the passage. And what are you going to do in the passage? You are going to the passage to scan for evidence before writing down your answers. This is a very simple process, okay, that will enable you to score high in any reading comprehension questions that you are given, okay? Now, these are the keys that will help you to unlock a comprehension passage. Let's go through those keys. The first key is the subject matter or thesis statement. And what is this all about? Identifying the subject matter and the thesis statement will give you the writer's central message, which will facilitate your understanding of the whole passage. When you are reading a passage, you will look for the subject matter and the thesis within the first paragraph, because the first paragraph is the introductory paragraph. That's where the writer introduces the topic, okay? Then the second thing that will help you to unlock a comprehension passage is the topic sentence. Each paragraph contains one main idea, and that tells you what the whole paragraph is all about. That main idea is contained in one sentence, which is called the topic sentence, okay? Number three, the structure. When you look at the structure, the various parts of the whole passage, and there are three main parts: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Well, if you add the title, then you have 4 parts, okay? Now, the next key is the comprehension question, and that is why we start by reading the question first. That's the most powerful clue. That's the most effective key you need for unlocking the passage, is the comprehension question. Each comprehension question gives you the keywords which serve as context clues in searching for the facts in the passage. Now, keyword search is powerful. Take the internet, for example. When you are looking for anything on the internet, what do? You simply type in the keyword. The keyword will then unlock all the information you want, and then you select the one you want. So the keyword is a key. That's why key is part of it. Keyword means a word that serves as a key to open a door. So you need the keyword in the question, okay? And then you use it as a context clue, so that as you look for the answer in the passage, you use the keyword to search for the answer. And once you find it, you grab it, and you have found the answer, okay? Now let's proceed and look at the sample reading passage, okay? Now this sample reading passage is taken from the West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 1995. And the instruction is like other instructions in reading passages in this exam. Read the following passage carefully and answer the questions on it. Now, we are going to look at the passage. But before reading the passage, I want to take you to the questions and then show you why reading the question first is the way to go. So we are going to the question. We have just skipped the passage and we want to read the questions first. Now let's do that. Now here are the questions. Now take note of the questions and see how the question helps you to, know what the passage is about before you ever start reading it. Question A, why was the writer always defending Chief Deinde. You see, the passage is about Chief Deinde, and there's something about him that the writer had to defend. So you see, you are beginning to know something about the passage just by reading the questions. Question B, okay, let's look at question B. We already see what A is all about. So let's see B. Why was the writer puzzled about the advertisement by Ngozi Deinde? So there's a character called Ngozi Deinde, and she put up an advertisement which surprised or shocked the writer. We are getting to know more and more about the passage. The more we read the questions, the more we know something about the passage that we are going to look for when we start reading the passage. Question C, why was he also surprised about the advertisement by the Apata fraternity? So there is also something called the Apata fraternity, and they also put up an advertisement that surprised the writer. So we see two surprises. And so we are beginning to think about the passage, what it is really about, We have heard about the chief character in this story, which is Chief Deinde. And then we have Ngozi Deinde. What is the relationship? And then we have the Apata fraternity. What is the relationship? So let's now continue. Question D, what lesson can we learn from this passage? So we have some lesson that we are going to learn from the passage. Question E, the bombshell failed. This is an expression lifted from the passage. And then question I, what figure of speech is the above expression? I, what is its meaning? This gives us a clue as to what we should be looking for in the passage. So when we come to the expression, the bombshell failed, then we look at how it is used in the passage, and that will immediately help us to figure out what part of speech it is and what its meaning is. Okay, so having said this, we proceed to question F, that his critics were most probably right after all. This is another expression taken from the passage. And question I is, what grammatical name is given to the above expression? I, what is its name in the sentence? You see? Then question G, for each of the following words, find another word or phrase that means the same and can replace it as it is used in the passage. I, careers, I, integrity, I, vehemently, IV, erroneously, V, shattered, and VI, exclusive. So having said this, let's now go back to the passage. Having read the question, we already know something about the passage. So let's now begin to read the passage, okay? Read the following passage carefully and answer the questions on it. The death last month of Chief Deinde has opened my eyes. You see, we already know something about Chief Deinde. There are a lot of questions. So as we read, we now begin to find the answers. That is what it means to read with a purpose. Having read the questions first, we already know something about the passage, but even more importantly, we know what we are to look for in the passage. Let's continue reading. Throughout his life, we were close friends. We grew up together, attended the same primary and secondary schools, and joined the civil service the same day. Although we benefited from different in-service training programs at different times during our respective careers, we were never too distant from each other, and we were installed chiefs the same day. Above all, his wife, Adamma, and mine have been good friends over the years, okay? Now let's move on. All these years, I believed that my friend kept no secret from me. I could and did occasionally defend his integrity. You see, you can now see one of the questions. Why did the writer defend Chief Deinde? You can see that the reason is because he believed that his friend never kept any secret from him. And he believed that his friend was honest. Okay? Anywhere people discussed him in my hearing, I was ready to take up his case vehemently. You can see now, vehemently. All the underlined words, we are asked to give another word that can replace it. Integrity here, you need to look at it. What does it mean? If you are defending someone's integrity, you are defending his honesty or his sincerity, which you believe that he has. Then take up his case vehemently means take up his case strongly or seriously. Let's continue reading. Predictably, people stopped discussing him anytime I was around. I had assumed erroneously, you see, the meaning of erroneously here is wrongly or incorrectly, okay? I had assumed erroneously, as it turned out, that people had stopped discussing him because they were sufficiently educated and surely convinced about his integrity. Happenings have since shattered my assumption. You see, he had an assumption which what he later found out destroyed. To shatter something is to destroy it. Let's now move on, okay? All these years, okay, we have gone through that. So let's look at the next paragraph. The next shock came after his death. You see, the major national newspapers carried his obituary as advertised by his wife, Ngozi Deinde, and her 3 children. Now we are beginning to learn something about Ngozi Deinde. Having read about her in the question, we already have her name as a context clue because there's a question about her name. So having come to the portion in the passage where Ngozi Deinde is mentioned, it's a clue now that we have gotten to where we will find an answer to that question. Why was the writer surprised about the advertisement made by Ngozi Deinde? We are going to find out now. You see, look at the same advertisement. That's the question. The major national newspapers carried his obituary as advertised by his wife, Ngozi Deinde, and her children. So why was the writer surprised? Let's read on. If the timing of that advertisement a day after the event was strange, particularly more puzzling was the advertiser. Why? All my life, I had known only Adamma as his wife and her 5 children. Okay. Besides, the names of his 3 children in the advertisement were entirely different from those of his 5 children by Adamma. So you see now why the writer was puzzled or surprised. The reason is clear, we have seen it. Because the writer never knew Ngozi as his friend's wife throughout his lifetime. So we can see that after his wife died, after his friend Chief Deinde died, then a strange name by the name Ngozi Deinde now surfaced and put up an advertisement. His friend never told him there was another wife, and that was why he was shocked. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, let's read on. Before I recovered from the shock, from the first shock, the bombshell fell. You can see having read the questions first before we started reading this passage, you know, all these things are no longer new to us, because one of the questions there is the bombshell fell, and we were asked, what is the meaning? What figure of speech is this? You see, now we can now begin to figure out. So before I recovered from the first shock, which shock? The shocking news. You see, so bombshell here is not really, it's not used in its literal meaning. There is no bomb anywhere. Okay, there's no physical bombshell that fell. It was just the shocking news. The first shocking news that the man got was that a woman she never knew was his friend's wife now put up an advert about his death, the obituary. All right. Now, the second, another bombshell, let's now read it. Members of the Apata fraternity, most dreaded cult, which Dende and I had despised while he lived, announced in the dailies that they had the exclusive right to bury their departed colleague. You see, this was another reason why the writer was shocked, you know, about another advertisement. He was shocked by the advertisement placed by Ngozi Dende, because he never knew Ngozi was his friend's wife. His wife kept that secret, never told him he had another wife. Meanwhile, this writer only knew about Adamma, the only wife he ever knew his friend had. So it was a shocking thing to him to discover that his friend had another wife by name Ngozi. As if that was not enough, he again saw another advertisement, you know, placed by a secret cult, the Apata fraternity. And what makes this even more shocking is that when his friend was alive, both the writer and his friend hated this secret cult and always condemned this secret cult. Okay? To discover that his friend was actually a member of this cult, as confirmed by the advertisement placed by this cult, was what shocked the writer. So all these things are no longer new to us, because we read the questions first, and while we read the passage, we are just harvesting the answers. So you can see how simple it is. When you read the question first and you start reading the passage is no longer new to you, because the questions have already disclosed to you everything you need to know about the passage. Not every detail, but at least the major things that matter, because what really matters to you in a reading passage is what the question has asked you to provide. You have no business with any other part of the passage. Your real business is with the questions. You are looking for the answers to the questions. And that is why when you read the questions first, you have done the wisest thing in a reading passage, or in the procedure for answering questions on a reading passage. Okay? Now let's read the rest. The announcement warned all uninitiated persons to keep off in their own interest. And so it was that members of the fraternity, supporting their claim with a handwritten will by Dende, collected his body from the hospital, performed the last rites on him, and buried him in their sacred grave. So you see, your full understanding of the passage has been really provided by reading the questions first. You are not confused about the passage. Everything is clear because you read the questions first, and now the answers are here, just very clear. okay, as clear as noonday. So this is what happens when you follow a simple and very effective procedure. So let's now move on. Having read the question, okay, now we are here to read the last paragraph. I have learned and I am still learning. You see, that's a writer speaking or writing here. I have reached the unpleasant conclusion that his critics were most perfectly right after all. Again, you see this last expression. We already know something about it because that's one of the expressions that was presented as part of the question. This expression was presented as a grammatical expression, and we were asked questions. Number one, what grammatical name is given to it? And number two, what function does it perform as used in the passage? So what we are going to do is that we are going to look at this expression in conjunction with the rest of the sentence. I have reached the unpleasant conclusion. What is the conclusion? That his critics were perfectly right after all. Okay? I have reached I have reached the unpleasant conclusion that his critics were most perfectly right after all. Okay? So you can see that this is actually the grammatical expression we are giving, and we are going to look at it, okay? So let's now go to the questions right away. Now let's begin to look at the questions. Question A, why was the writer always defending Chief Dende? B, why was the writer puzzled about the advertisement by Ngozi Dende? C, why was he also surprised about the advertisement by the Apata fraternity? All these are already known to us, okay? D, what lesson can we learn from this passage? You know, the lesson is simple. The man so trusted his friend. He was so much sure that his friend was honest that every time people talked about him, he kept defending him. So the lesson is clear. You know, you can hardly trust any man totally. You never can tell. And another thing is that in every rumor, there is some element of truth. The man never believed that all the evil things, the negative things people were saying about his friend, he never believed any of them was true at all. But now the truth has come out. After the man has died, everything becomes clear, okay? So then question E, the bombshell fell. What figure of speech is the above expression? We have already seen it. The bombshell is not actually a physical bombshell. It refers to something else, and that something else is shocking news. You know, the bombshell is a shocking news. And this kind of figure of speech is known as metaphor. When you describe something by using something else to represent it, you are dealing with metaphor. And what is the meaning? It simply means a piece of shocking news or surprising news. That's just what the bombshell is there. Then F, that these critics were most probably right after all. What grammatical name is given to the above expression? What is its function in the sentence? We are going to analyze this, okay? And then question G, For each of the following words, find another word or phrase that means the same and can replace it as used in the passage. I, careers. I, integrity. I, vehemently. IV, erroneously. V, shattered. And VI, exclusive. Now let's begin to look at the answers to these questions, okay? Now, answers to the questions. I want to show you how to answer these questions, but you can see how the procedure we adopted demystified the entire process, simplified it, and facilitated our reading speed. We didn't have to read the passage several times because we read the questions first. When we started reading the passage, everything, began to fall into place, okay? So let's now look at the questions and the answers. Question A, why was the writer always defending Chief Deinde? How do you answer it? Just write A and write Chief Deinde was the writer's bosom friend who kept no secret from him. We saw that in the passage. And so the writer believed that his friend could never have kept anything from him because he believed his friend told him everything. But it then dawned on him at last that he didn't know everything, okay? Question B, why was the writer puzzled about the advertisement by Ngozi Deinde? It's simple. The writer had never seen or known Ngozi as Chief Deinde's wife when the man was alive. That's just the simple thing. C, why was he also surprised about the advertisement by the Apata fraternity? It's a similar thing. He never knew that his friend belonged to it, okay? The writer and the late chief had always been of the same opinion in hating and condemning the Apata fraternity, which was a secret cult. His friend pretended that he didn't like belonging to a secret cult. And so his friend always played along with him. And so each time the writer condemned Apata fraternity, his friend also condemned it. And so they seemed to be on the same page. They had a similar opinion about joining a secret society. Lo and behold, his friend was actually a member of the very thing both of them condemned. So let's now go to the next questions and look at them. Okay. Question D, what lesson can we learn from the passage? It's obvious, isn't it? Okay. So always make sure you write the alphabet. The question is question D. The answer is answer D. I want to emphasize this because some students really lose marks. The examiner has given you question D, and then some students will, in writing the answer, come with A, B, C, D. They write 4. How can your answer become answer 4 when the question is question D? So you don't have to begin to, confuse things. If you are answering question D, then your answer must be answer D. So if you come with answer 4 to question D, you create ambiguity, you create some confusion, and obviously whoever is marking your script may decide to penalize you. And if he's not in the best of moods, he may even decide not to give you anything at all because there was no question that was question 4. So for you to just manufacture a strange answer to a strange question, the person marking the script may become angry and may even not give you any mark at all. the best it can do is to give you some, just few marks, okay? But certainly you have to be penalized. So take note of that. Now, answer D to question D. The lesson we can learn from the passage is twofold. Human beings cannot be fully trusted. In every rumor, there could be some element of truth. Simple. Okay? That's exactly the lesson we can learn. Of course, this is an inferential question, so it's not mathematical. So there's no single way to answer the question. You can come up with your own lesson. This is an opinion question, and we call it an inferential question or an interpretative question, because it's something you have to figure out from your background knowledge. The answers are not explicitly stated on the passage, but the facts there are obvious. So the information is implied but not explicitly stated. So you need to figure it out. You can look for a previous video lesson I already uploaded on this channel, and the most recent one is 5 comprehension question types you must know. Okay, so if you look for it, you will be able to actually understand the different types of comprehension questions, because we have been answering different types of questions. We have answered factual questions, and we are now looking at inferential questions. We have also answered figure of speech questions. We have also answered grammatical questions. But if you watch that video, you will see where I have called a spade in each type of comprehension question, okay? And then show you also how to answer them. Now, question E, the bomb shall fail. You see, this expression was lifted from the passage, and then we are given 2 questions. Question I, what figure of speech is the above expression? What is its meaning? Now, see how it is answered. You see, we come up with answer E to question E, and then we come up with sub answer I to sub question I. What figure of speech is the above expression? And in answering this type of comprehension question, you don't need to write any sentence, simply state it. So I write I here, and I simply write metaphor. That's the name. What figure of speech is giving, what figure of speech is the above expression? Metaphor, full stop, that's all. You don't need to say the name of the figure of speech of the above expression is this and that. No, that's a cock and bull story. To answer this type of question, simply state it. Don't begin to tell a story there. Then what is its meaning? A shocking piece of news. That's just what it is. This brings us to question F, that his critics were most probably right after all. What grammatical name is given to the above expression? What is its function in the sentence? Now, let's look at the answer. For us to figure out the answer, we have to look at the sentence from which this expression was taken, because it is an incomplete expression. It is a subordinate clause, and so it doesn't make complete meaning. For us to understand its grammatical name and grammatical function, we have to look at it in the complete sentence from which it was taken. And so consider the full sentence in the passage first. And this is the full sentence. I have reached the unpleasant conclusion that his critics were most perfectly right after all. Now, how do we answer this type of question? Number one, you use what we call the border principle. Look at the expression. It shares a common border with, this is where we put a full stop. Okay, perhaps I really have to use the annotation here. Let me see if I can use, okay. So this is where we put, you see, this is where we put a full stop. I just want to show you. So we put a full stop here because we have drawn a line that this is the border. This is where this expression was taken. And so if we bring back the expression, we put it here because this is the border. This is the border between the remaining part of the sentence and this expression that was taken. So there's something significant about that. And so in grammatical analysis, we use what we call the border principle. And so here we put a full stop. And then the second thing is to raise a question that naturally occurs to you. Now, ignore that expression and then read the remaining part of the sentence and see what kind of question naturally comes to your mind. You see, linguistics is the scientific study of a language or of language. There's something scientific about it because we learned language by learning, listening, and observing. And as we read, as we listen, we read, then we began to speak at the babbling stage until we could articulate the sounds. And then we learned the graphic aspects of language, which is using letters to represent the sounds. And that is writing, listening, speaking, reading, writing, okay? And so there is something about it. So if we use the linguistic procedure, then we will always get it right. So using the border principle, let's read the remaining part of the sentence. I have reached the unpleasant conclusion. What question will naturally come to your mind? I have reached the unpleasant conclusion. What question can be asked here? What is the conclusion that you reached? Okay. What is the conclusion you reached? And so when the question is what, because here it is about something. You want to know what this conclusion is all about. What is this conclusion? You know? Or somebody could, if you say, I have reached the unpleasant conclusion, and you just stop. And somebody just want to complete it with a kind of question. The conclusion that what, you know, or that what, you know, that could also be a kind of question that can arise naturally. I have reached the unpleasant conclusion. what conclusion have you reached? Or you reach the unpleasant conclusion that what? You see, that what? So this is the kind of question. And then you need to understand in terms of the grammatical classes that if the question is what, there is one grammatical structure that provides answer to the question what, and that is a noun or a noun phrase or a noun clause. Different grammatical structures provide different pieces of information. For instance, an adjective provides the answer to the question which one or what type. Okay. Then an adverb provides answer to different questions such as when, where, how, why, for what purpose, you know, those ideas. But when you talk in terms of what, whenever the question is what, then you know it's either it must be something. And when you want to name something, it is a noun. It's either a noun or a noun phrase or a noun clause. But obviously, it's from the noun family because a noun is a naming word. So when the question is what is it? Then you need to name what it is. And if you have to name what it is, then you are dealing with a noun or a nominal element. You see, this is how to figure out the grammatical names. Again, I have a video that I uploaded already on the channel, how to identify grammatical names and functions. That video will simplify everything because this aspect of the comprehension questions in the senior school certificate examinations always gives the student, the candidates, some problem. A lot of people don't know how to identify the grammatical names. So when you watch that video, you will become an expert in identifying grammatical names and functions. You should be able to call every grammatical structure by name. And that makes you an English grammar expert because being an expert in a language or being proficient in a language includes being able to call a spade grammatical, okay? So what do we find here? Now, what is the grammatical name? Sorry. So what is the grammatical name? The grammatical name here is simply what we call an appositive, because we are this should have been a complement if we had a linking verb here. For example, if you say the conclusion, the unpleasant conclusion I reached was that, you see, that his critics were most perfectly right after all, will be a compliment. It will be, you know, we should be able to say that it's performing the job of a compliment. But here, it is not performing the job of a compliment. It is rather performing the job of an appositive. But first of all, the grammatical name itself, this is a noun clause because it names something. It names something. The unpleasant conclusion is somebody wants to know, what is this unpleasant conclusion? What is it? What is this conclusion? For example, let me give you one example. if somebody says, I knew, or let me try to give an example. Okay, we welcomed Mr. John into our class this morning. Or we were happy to welcome Mr. John to our class this morning. And somebody will ask, who is Mr. John? Then let me now couple it like in a similar manner. We welcomed Mr. John, our English teacher, into our class this morning. Or you can say, we welcomed Mr. John, who is, okay, no, let me not go that way. We welcomed Mr. John, the English teacher, into our class this morning. You see, so when you come up with an expression like that, we welcome Mr. John. Who is Mr. John? Now, if we put a full stop, we welcome Mr. John. Perhaps I should I should demonstrate this in writing. Yes, let me demonstrate it in writing. And perhaps I should use something that, okay. We welcomed Mr. John our new English teacher to our class this morning. Okay, so now let's assume you are asked the grammatical name of our new English teacher. What is the grammatical name? So you can see that using the border principle, you can simply write, we welcomed Mr. John to our class this morning. So somebody wants to know, who is Mr. John? You see, there are two things that a noun or a noun phrase or a noun clause can do to tell you who or to tell you what. Because a noun is the name of a person or thing. So you can see it's either who or what. So if we say we welcome Mr. John, who is Mr. John? Our new English teacher, we provide answer to the question who. And that shows us that our new English teacher, this grammatical structure is either a noun phrase, or a noun clause. Now we know it can be a noun because a noun is a single word. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 words. Then is it a phrase or a clause? It can be a clause because it doesn't contain a verb. So it is a noun phrase. You see, in the other one, we see it's not a noun, and it can be a noun phrase because it has a verb, where, okay? So that is how we figure out grammatical names. And then if we are asked what grammatical, what function does it perform? It's simply an appositive. An appositive is a grammatical structure that is the exact description of the one that comes before it, and the two are placed side by side. Now, if you You can turn an appositive into a complement. For example, if you say Mr. John is a new English teacher, the word is a linking verb. If you link it together, a new English teacher becomes a complement. But here it is an appositive because there is no, it's not linked by any verb. But if you ask the question, who is our new English teacher? Mr. John. Who is Mr. John? Our new English teacher. So that is how an appositive works. So I hope you have really understood what this is all about. So let's undo this and move ahead. Okay. So now, okay, let me again also remove this. Okay. So having said this, let's now look at the answers. You see, in writing the answers here, we come with the question. It is question F, so our answer will be answer F, and then sub answer I is noun clause. You see, II is a positive of the noun phrase, the unpleasant conclusion. It's an appositive. If something is in opposition to something else, it means both of them are placed side by side. They are juxtaposed. They are placed side by side, okay? Okay, so let's now get to the last lab of this lesson. And so we have come to the last question, question G. For each of the following words, find another word or phrase that means the same and can replace it as it is used in the passage. I, careers. I, integrity. I, vehemently. IV, erroneously. V, shattered. VI, exclusive. Now, while reading the passage, I already drew your attention to how they were used. Careers, the word careers was used like a profession. Okay. Then I, integrity was used like honesty. You know, the writer always defended his friend's integrity, which means he was saying the man was honest. I, vehemently, and that is strongly. IV, erroneously, is wrongly or incorrectly. You know, shattered, the meaning is destroyed. Exclusive, special. Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's video, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then make sure you like the video and share the video with your friends and relations. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, kindly leave them in the comment section below. If you are new entirely to the channel and you have not subscribed to this channel, then consider subscribing to this channel, because on this channel, we provide valuable content in two major ways. Number one, we teach you the English language. We teach you how to use English for effective communication and even for passing your exams if you are a student. And number two, we also teach you how to use this English language as a powerful tool for creating content. So we teach content creation on this channel as well, because we strongly believe and we know that if you are proficient in the use of a language, then you have a powerful tool on your hands. And this tool is a tool for creating content. So if you are proficient in the use of English, then one thing you can do to earn a living is to use that language to create content. And that's what I'm doing on this channel. And that's what I'm doing on many other online platforms where I have created content and I have presented content, and people buy this content because they find it valuable. Okay, so If you are interested in content creation, we share ideas and show you how you can create content, okay? And if you are interested in videos like this, make sure you click on the subscribe button below and make sure you click on the bell icon as well, so that whenever I upload a new video, you will be notified instantly. So you won't miss any new video the moment I upload it. And if you are going to take a test like IELTS, which is an international English language proficiency test, or Duolingo English test, then we have training programs for those who want to go and study abroad or work abroad and might have to take this test. We show you how you can adequately get prepared and obtain your dream scores in these tests. And if you want to learn some content creation skills, or you want to start an online business, for example, if you are a teacher, retired or working, and you want to start an online teaching business, just similar to what I'm doing online, I have put together a program that will allow you to use my own blueprint. So you follow the procedure and you'll be able to set up your own online teaching business and begin to earn money, online. If you are interested in, such programs, you will find the links in the description box. Just click on the link. There are also different ebooks. One of them is free. The basic units of English grammar, you can download it free of charge. Then you have Good Success in English and others that you can download free of charge. No, well, that one is not completely free, but there's a token that you have to pay just to appreciate our efforts. Okay, so if you are interested in any of them, just click on the link and you'll be able to download the ebook. And then there are online courses that I have also published on Udemy, and you can find some of them. You will find, for example, how to create and sell information products. Okay, that also has an ebook version. So whichever one you are interested in, you can grab, you can gain access to each of them. So I want to say a big thank you to all of you for being part of today's episode. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye for now and remain blessed. Many thanks for watching today's video. A big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly subscribe to this channel. Subscribe now as a way of giving us support. For notification about new videos, click on the bell icon. You will find the bell icon. Click on it so that whenever a new video is uploaded, you will be instantly notified. If you have actually enjoyed the video, like and share the video with your friends and relatives. This is very important. If you have any comments, leave your comments below. Any questions, any suggestions, we would gladly receive them and respond promptly and positively to them. See you in the next video. I look forward to always seeing you